It's midnight Thursday rose to 8 overnight. The first shooting happened around 10:30 in the Little Village neighborhood. A 26-year-old construction worker was killed, two others injured in what appears to have been a drive-by shooting. Later, an 18-year-old was shot to death getting out of his car on the 800 block of South Karloff.
I had no idea. They told me to come in, sit down next to the chaplain. I did that. And then he had this paper. And he said, Sergeant Shaw, your son, Jamal, has died, and I freaked out. I wanted to run out the room. I was screaming and kicking. I was shouting no, and they wouldn't let me run out. The chaplain lady took me to the office, and I was able to call back home. He told me they shot him. He was 3 doors down. I was like, no. I didn't want to believe it. I thought if I didn't talk about it, it wouldn't be true.
He'd remind us that on the shoulders of each one of us lays the responsibility to speak up and speak out. Most of all, our all-city running back would remind us that we are defeated if we don't see ourselves as one city.
You know, he believed that when I told him that if he did everything right, that, you know, he could make something out of his life. And look what happened, you know. And I think he's here, and you see that picture that he's pointing. He never saw that picture. I picked that picture up Friday, you know, a week after, you know, he was murdered. But I remember when he took it, and he told me, you know, you're going to like this picture, Dad, you know. And now you can see that he's pointing. I think he's pointing to all of us, you know. I think he's pointing to us, and he's saying that it's up to you, you know. Nothing I can do right now. Nothing he can do. But it's up to us, each one of us, to make a difference.
We know we may never meet again.
Can you tell me a little about the impact that this has on the lives of the families?
How it impacts the family? First, it takes enormous amount of energy to cope with what's happened and to even accept the reality of it. So the energy that you would have to put into maintaining a marriage, maintaining a family, going to work, paying the bills, getting the taxes done, that gets siphoned off in enormous quantities so that it's hard to just function. I mean, we certainly see employers that are very sympathetic initially when there's a murder that's impacted a family, usually offering time off and you know, graciousness around the whole issue. But within a relatively short period of time, we're kind of expecting people to be back at work and maybe not at full capacity, but you know, able to do their jobs. And I had, quite frankly, a lot of our patients have a lot of trouble getting back to work. And so there's an economic impact in addition to the emotional impact.
Etc. Today, firearms are easier to come by. In the neighborhoods that have disproportionate numbers of violent crimes, probably within a 30-minute to an hour period of time, you should, if you know the right people, you can purchase a gun. And an individual who is young and immature, you put a gun in an immature person's hands, that's an ingredient for failure, for problems to occur. And so yes, we have a significant problem. In terms of the cost of homicide, besides the obvious costs associated with all of the people that get involved when we respond to that crime. You have your emergency services people, your medics that must respond, your paramedics, etc. There's a cost associated with that. There's a cost associated with the police response. There's a back of the house cost associated with the cost of incarcerating the individual, the cost of prosecuting the individual, the cost of the various appeals that could occur, the cost of the judiciary that has to try the system, the cost of the public defenders or the defense attorneys. And then there are costs associated with homicide, such as the loss of income to that particular family, that, and maybe even to a certain extent, the cost to business in our area, because when an area is determined to have an imbalance of crime, there's a certain perception that occurs, and that costs business. Nobody wants to go work, live, or play in an area that is perceived as having a significant problem with crime.